Hello, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Weekly UK. Today we're going to talk about the 5 most influential characters and wrestlers that's ever been in the WWE. Let's start with number 5, John Cena. John has led the company through some very, very rough times with viewership and fans, and he's done it all on his back. I rate the guy for that. I rate the guy for his charity work. He's getting WWE more liked, not for just a wrestling company, but for a company that does a lot for charity. For that, you can't hate John Cena. You don't have to like him. You just can't hate him. He's a great ambassador, and he always does stuff for others. And he's not terrible in the ring. He also come through a period when a lot of people left in the WWE. So we talk about this ruthless aggression era. Obviously, Stone Cold retired. Goldberg, Brock left. Kangle left a couple of years later. So there's a lot of people gone. Him and a couple others really stepped up and kept the company going for the next 10, 15 years. It's quite amazing to see. So that's why John's in my top 5 at 5. Number 4, Undertaker. I think Undertaker's probably one of the most loyal wrestlers that's ever worked in WWE. He could have left for the money. He could have went to WCW with everybody else, but he stayed. When the money wasn't the same, when there's no guaranteed contracts, he stayed for loyalty to WWE. The man's an icon. He's obviously, we have to be honest here, he's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but he's got the most iconic character ever. And the character's kept him through wrestling for those, 30 years now. So Mark Calloway he should always be in someone's top 5. But he's number 4 in mine, just because of loyalty, just because of he was always on screen, the stuff he's went through, the injuries, being set on fire, carrying on matches. You gotta respect the man. Let's get into the more bigger names, the faces. Number 3, I've gone from Hulk Hogan. You either love him or hate him, but you have to respect and admire what he done in the 80s. With WWE, there was a land of the giants. He stood out as being the ultra babyface, the ultra person to look at, the ultra person to want to be, the ultra person you want to see. His fights with obviously Andre were a bit sloppy, weren't they? But they built the whole Goliath gigantic wrestling company that WWE is today. They helped anyway. With their larger-than-life characters, Hulk Hogan's obviously got a great promo, a great look, and he was great back in the day. And Hulk Hogan has to be in the top 5 of the most influential wrestlers in WWE's history. Let's go through number 2. Basically, where it all started, Bruno Sammartino. We all know Bruno's history, his story, his life, his injuries, how long he's held the title. Bruno was the face at the time, obviously. Then Hulk Hogan took off after him. Bruno Sammartino, I've seen quite a few of his matches. Obviously, for his time, he was very good. He looked great. He had a few injuries in his career, but he always wrestled like it was his first match. Basically, he was always good. He never looked tired. He just looked great in the ring. So Bruno Sammartino has to be in the top 5. That's why I've number 2, because he's how it all started with Vincent Kennedy Sr. and obviously Little Vince. That's why Bruno Sammartino is number 2 on my list. Number 1. I think this should be a very obvious answer for a lot of people, because without this man and without what he did, there probably wouldn't be a WWE. They probably would have lost WCW. His attitude, his lovable character that you weren't supposed to like, he's supposed to be a heel, but you loved him because he's that anti-villain. I'm talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin obviously started in WCW, and his career was pretty good. Like watching him with Hillman as the Hollywood Blondes was fun as, and they were a very entertaining tag team together. Obviously, with the powers of WCW, nothing ever works right, does it? And he had to move on. He went to ECW, and that's where I think he found his attitude. Great promos, not bad in-ring style matches as well with ECW. The promos were the main asset of Stone Cold's time in ECW, and then he'd bring it over to the WWF at the time. I think he's the reason that the Attitude Era happened, and I think he's the reason DX got a little bit more controversial as well. But Stone Cold was a character no one will ever beat how much merch he sold, how much money he made for WWE, and that's probably why he's loved so much by Vince McMahon, even through all of the stuff that he has done in his past, like the walkouts and stuff. But for me, number one on the list, it has to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. This has been top 5 most influential wrestlers in WWE's history. Watch our next video coming up. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Peace.